Welcome to the first in a series of 4 modules focused on implementing person-centered support in the community. This is Tier 2 of the series, Aging Services and Supports for People Living with Dementia. This program builds directly upon the Tier 1 series, which provided an overview of person-centered care, communication with people with dementia, understanding behavioral expressions, medical and clinical aspects of dementia, as well as complex information and referral issues. We encourage you to complete all of the Tier 1 modules before moving on to Tier 2. Tier 2 modules have been developed for options counselors, Medicaid case managers, OPI case managers, adult protective service providers, as well as others who assist people with dementia and their families plan for the future. As with the Tier 1 modules, the Tier 2 training modules will be most meaningful if you take each program consecutively. We will be introducing characters and concepts that will be referred to in later modules. This module will focus on honoring personhood through person-centered decision support. In later modules, we will examine person-centered planning, care transitions, advanced care planning, and end-of-life care. Several areas of competency for options counselors are consistent with person-centered thinking and working with people with dementia. These competencies are relevant to all of those who work directly with older adults. This module emphasizes understanding needs, values, and preferences from the point of view of the person, as well as from caregivers. You will also see an emphasis on self-determination. All of the other option counseling competencies are addressed in later modules. As a way to honor personhood through decision support, we will present the team performance model as a way to guide the process. We will also present and illustrate some tools that can be useful in getting to know people, their situations, and building relationships. We will also introduce you to the cast of characters who illustrate 2 situations that options counselors and case managers are likely to encounter. A 3rd situation will be introduced in Module 6. The situations were developed in consultation with options counselors and case managers who work with older adults. Please note that these characters, including the options counselors, are portrayed by actors. At the end of the module, we will direct you to a survey to provide feedback on the module. In the final module of the series, you will also be asked to complete a short knowledge assessment. This information will help us determine where to focus on more training. The objectives of this module are to learn more about some person-centered care tools to help you to build trust with the person living with dementia and their families as they address emerging issues and plan for the future. Use communication skills to learn about the needs, values, and preferences of the person living with dementia, as well as those who are providing support. Help families use person-centered approaches to establish goals to address what is not working in their current situation. Before talking about a person-centered planning approach, it is useful to describe a traditional approach to serving clients. A traditional planning session to identify needs and engage supports looks something like this. Decisions are made by consensus of a planning team based on formal needs assessment. Perhaps the purpose of the assessment is to determine eligibility for Medicaid service or determine whether the client qualifies for a service based on needs for activities of daily living. The planning team typically consists of staff and professionals, and decisions are driven by agency or provider definitions of needs. These are often based on a menu of services that the agency provides. Planning focuses on that menu of services offered. These services tend to be the starting point in discussions with family members. Natural supports augment programmatic efforts. There is a tendency to listen for needs that align with services. For example, does a person need Meals on Wheels or light housekeeping or transportation services? Planning occurs periodically, often in response to an emergency or crisis. We are all familiar with calls that come because suddenly a new living situation is needed right now, or someone has had a medical emergency. Attention is focused on problems and fixing, typically in response to the crisis. In contrast, in a person-centered planning approach, the person and his or her representative drives the decisions. They enlist people who they feel have important contributions to make in the process. The focus of planning is on the desired outcomes of the person. These outcomes are not likely to correspond directly to the formal assessment form or list of available services. Informal and community supports are identified and defined first to address those things that are most important to the person. Formal supports are used to augment natural supports rather than the other way around. Planning is an ongoing process that evolves over time, and planning focuses on building upon a person's strengths. Options counselors typically use a more person-centered than a traditional approach. Remember that part of the options counseling competencies are to learn about and take into account the values, needs, and preferences as defined by the person. Options counselors spend time developing relationships and learning about the person so that they can match services with individual needs. However, a tendency for all professionals is to offer our expertise and to direct clients and consumers to the services that we know best and feel would address the situation. It is important to resist those tendencies, especially early in the process of getting to know the consumer, any family members that are involved, and their overall situation. Let's listen to Michael Smoll, a leader in person-centered planning, as he provides a framework for our discussion.